It's my pleasure to introduce Digital K. She's worked as a media and technology educator for over a decade at museums, universities, and in New South Wales schools, with the aim of empowering young people to be creators and not just consumers of all things digital. She also runs a range of coding and electronics workshops for teachers and adults tailored to their needs. And today she's going to be talking to us about Python and Minecraft.
Okay, hello, can you hear me? Okay, hi, so my name's Kiki, but I call myself Digital K online. And I want to talk to you about using Python to blow stuff up. Specifically, I want to touch on the point that Bruce was raising about introductory programming, sometimes seen as being boring, uninteresting. Why do we have to learn this, miss? And I want to use Python to get kids excited about programming. The hook to get our students into understanding programming concepts and give them something tangible and fun that they can immediately apply those skills to. And I think one of the answers is using Minecraft. So I might just get a quick hands up as to who here is already teaching some kind of coding. Okay, and keep your hand up if you're using Python. All right, so quite a few people. Is anyone using other languages? So is anyone using Scratch? Okay, a few people. So I think that this is a really good introduction to text-based learning when you're first starting out, where you're coming from something like a visual programming language like Scratch, or if you're just having a go with getting into learning coding. So I'm recommending this for students who are fairly new to coding, or if they've had a little bit of experience with some text-based coding. So talking about kids in stages 3 and up. And I've been using this in museums, in after-school coding classes, and also with some year 7 and 8s. So has anyone actually used Minecraft in the classroom? Yep, 1 or 2 people. Okay. Who's familiar with the Minecraft game? Okay, most of you. Okay. Well, your students definitely are. Even if they don't love playing the game themselves, they are familiar with the game. So this is where I think getting kids excited about coding with something that they're already familiar with and that they like to do is a real hook for getting kids engaged with text-based coding. Minecraft licenses, many of your students will already have a Minecraft account. So if that's the case, then there's no additional charge. Otherwise, it's not too expensive to get some Minecraft Edu licenses for your class. So relatively low cost setup, and I think there's less involved than setting up something like Pygame for doing, if you want to do games and graphics. And it's pretty easy to see the immediate results from your code. Okay, the other advantage is that most of the students who are using Minecraft have already had a bit of a feel for using the command line. Okay, so things, if you've played the PC or the Mac version of Minecraft, students are probably already familiar with doing things like changing the weather, setting the time, sending your friend a request to teleport to them. Some kids might have also used the command blocks in the game, or maybe even set up their own simple server. So actually modifying the game further does require some more advanced coding using Java, which is a barrier for a lot of kids to get into. But what I'm going to show you is using an application programming interface that allows you to do some extra things within the game without modifying the source code. So you set up a server on your own computer, and then you're importing some libraries of pre-made code and using Python to send commands to your server to make things happen in the game. Okay, so some examples. To place blocks in the game, to move the player around, and to check whether or not a block has been hit, and that's useful if you want to sort of make some games. So what else can you do with it? Normally in the game, for anyone who doesn't know, you're running around and placing blocks sort of with your hands to make stuff, so it's a bit like virtual Lego. With Python, you can build things with code that would take ages to complete if you were just simply placing every single block with your hands. And you can build faster, you can build the kinds of structures that would be incredibly difficult or time-consuming to make in games, such as these spheres. You can duplicate your code, so you could design a building and replicate that multiple times, creating a whole city. You can get blocks to change colour, and you can also create games within the game of Minecraft. So almost all of the kids that I've been teaching this to, when they first log into the game, they start running around and placing and destroying blocks like they're used to doing and having fun with that. But as soon as they see what they can do with the code, they get hooked. And they go, oh my God, I want to build this. You know, I want to try making this kind of amazing structure. And they get hooked on understanding what they can do with the coding. Okay, so let's look at what you need. There's two options. First of all, has anyone here got a Raspberry Pi? Yeah, a few hands up. Okay, so if you've got the Raspberry Pi, the Minecraft Pi Edition comes preloaded on the Raspberry Pi, so there's nothing extra to buy, but you will need to, of course, hook your Pi up to a keyboard and monitor and a mouse. And if you've got a Pi, there's some other cool things that you can do, such as sending a signal to the Pi camera, which I might talk about later. So if you don't have a Raspberry Pi, what you can do now is you can just use a normal PC or Mac, but you'll need to buy a copy of Minecraft, so per computer, or Minecraft Edu, which is the same thing. And then you can download for free this Raspberry Juice plugin. I'll show you the website at the end where you can get that. And that comes with the server software and all the API libraries that you're going to need to use your code to talk to your Minecraft server. Now, just note that both of these, with the API libraries that Mojang initially developed, are designed to work with Python 2. I have heard of people making their own library copies for it to work with Python 3, but there's not much support for that. And all of the teaching that I've been doing with it and the version that you can get off the website is all for Python 2. Okay, so how it works is you get the libraries, you import them into your Python code, you're sending a signal to the server, and then that tells the server what to do to make things happen in the game. Generally, each computer would be running its own mini server. So you're running your own commands in your own world on your own computer. There is an option for doing it in multiplayer. However, I've used that quite a few times at the Powerhouse Museum, where I've run these kind of workshops over a whole day. And personally, I find it a bit distracting having a lot of the kids in multiplayer, because somebody will make a wonderful structure, somebody else will then come and place lava all over it. And, you know, you get all those issues of sort of conflict or cooperation, which you would have to deal with in any kind of multiplayer environment. So if you're focused on the building, you may want to just simply get kids started off on their own computers or in their own little world. All right, so let's have a look at a few examples of how it's going to work. And I'm going to demo here setting it up. Let's see what I've got. Yep, okay. So I've got a little folder here, which is, as I mentioned, something that I downloaded for free from the internet from a website called Stuff About Code, which I'll mention again at the end. And that folder comes with a few basic things, but what I'm going to use here is a command to start a server. So I'm just going to get a little server started using Canary mod, if anyone's familiar with that. And I can just minimise that. I don't need to worry about that anymore. All right, then I've got Minecraft here. I'm actually clicking on multiplayer, but I'm just going to connect straight away to my server. Okay, so there we are in the world. As you can see in the distance, something that I built a little while ago. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to open up some files that I've made earlier. So I've just stored these in a folder. And we'll start off with some very basics. And just to sort of give you some context, usually what I would do when I'm teaching this is I actually get kids to, sorry, I'll just move this over into the screen, over the other screen so you can see it. I actually get kids to get a little bit familiar with the Python environment first before we go into Minecraft. So I might show them how to open up idle, how you run things with the shell, and how to use a print statement. Once we've got that far, we can grab these libraries. So we're importing some libraries for the Minecraft commands and also the blocks that we're going to use. And I've also imported a time module there and created a connection to the game. So this very first command that I'm going to run will simply, it's basically like a print statement, but we're going to be running it in the game. So that's the post to chat. And if I just put this to the side there, we should be able to run this bit of code and then go back to the game and see our message appear in the game. Okay, so once we've done that, let's have a look at actually doing some building. So I might go into now a few recent files and let's have a look at, okay, once again, I'll just drag this over. Okay, so now as you can see, I've created a variable to store my player position. And then I'm using, once again, this comes from the libraries of code that Mojang developed some years ago now. And that's allowing me to set a location for when I want to place a block and deciding what kind of block that I want to place. And then what I'm going to do is, so once I've got the kids familiar with how it works and how we can place one block, we start learning about loops. And I've got a for loop here where I can change one parameter of my location so I can build a line of blocks. Let's just get this minimised a little bit. Usually when I'm working with this, I'd have that window open at the same time as I've got Minecraft running. So I can run my code, go back to the game, and there's my first block, and then we see a line of blocks appearing. Okay, maybe one more quick example of the same sort of thing. So as we're doing it, it'll be gradually building on their knowledge. Okay, we've placed a block, we've placed a line of blocks. How can we work out how we can perhaps make a wall of blocks? And this is where kids start thinking. We start talking about maybe making nested loops. We start talking about coordinates and how you could think about the maths involved of where you want your blocks to be placed and how to change your code. Okay, so in this case, once again, I've got a block that I'm placing in front of my player, and I'm using nested loops this time to not just build across, but to build up. Okay, thanks. So, whoops, oh, minimized that. So, okay, so that's disappeared. I was going to show you building a wall of TNT, and then, of course, what kids like to do is to get the flint and steel and blow everything up. You're just going to be careful not to have too many blocks blowing up at once because it can crash your server. So if we go back to, I'll just give you a couple more quick examples. So in this case, I've created a whole tower. Again, just using loops, and as you can see, I've made a whole structure there. This is the sort of thing that kids start working out, oh, okay, what else can I do with this? What else could I make? And I could run my code multiple times and without changing very much, create a whole city. So there we go. We've got 2 office blocks. I don't know if you can see very closely. They've got randomised carpet on the floor. Okay, here's another example. Oops, I've gone too far. Okay, so with this one, I actually created a little game. And this one's using, we create a function to determine the distance between a player and a hidden block. And we're using time to calculate how long it's going to take for the player to find the block, and we're gathering some information about where the player is, and then sending messages to see whether the player needs to move which way, colder or warmer, to go and find the hidden block. So as you can see, you can make games within the game. All right, so let's have a talk about what else we can use it for. So as I mentioned, learning about coordinates, multiplication, time, as I just showed you in the game. You can actually import CSV data files. So if you wanted to make something like a maze, you could do that with some data. As we see here, making spheres is one of the things kids love to do because that would be very difficult to actually make in the game. I made a map of New South Wales. Unfortunately, I didn't get to make one of Victoria yet. So we can make artworks with it, and you can play around with that wonderful, cross between maths and art, and learn about patterns and shapes and using perhaps trigonometry. You could look at things like geofencing, And if you move out of a certain area, you're going to get a certain message. You can make a game to start charging people rent when they're in a space. You could create a game where your oxygen decreases as you get higher up. And if you want to extend it further, you can actually connect it to some external devices. So this is an example of connecting a small Arduino with a little button to be able to trigger something to happen in the game. So press the button and that's sending a signal to the server. We get a countdown and I think you know what's going to happen. All right, so that's another favourite. Okay, let's have a look at where else to get some information. So the Raspberry Pi website has got some really fantastic resources there about getting started with Minecraft Pi. As I mentioned, the Raspberry Pis come preloaded with the Minecraft Pi and all the libraries that you need. This is the website, though, if you want to go and get a download of the Raspberry Juice plugin for using on a PC or a Mac. And there's a fantastic book that this fellow called Martin O'Hanlon, who lives in the UK, is a bit of an expert on this. If anyone wants to come and grab me sometime and have a look through this book and see some examples of the kinds of projects that you can make in here. For instance, they've got a project on building a 3D block printer, which I haven't tried myself, but there's some really fantastic projects here, getting a working analogue clock to happen, for instance. Some really fantastic projects that are showcased on that website. Okay, so I encourage you to try it out. It's not too hard, and if you don't know that much about Minecraft, don't worry, your students will. Okay, so thanks. If anyone wants to ask. Any questions?
Yep, I'll run the mic out to anyone that has questions.
So you're working with museums?
Yes, so I work at the Powerhouse Museum, just as a casual. I also do after-school coding workshops and I do incursions to
so
schools.
So are you working with museum, doing projects with students?
Usually what we have is more often either school groups come in on excursion or we run school holiday workshops. So students will come in for like a whole day or maybe 2 days and we'll teach them some basics of Python and we'll teach them how to use it in the game and they maybe build their own game within the game. Yeah.
I was thinking, how do you integrate, things from the museum history or whatever that is then related that they can actually project into a Minecraft?
Oh, absolutely. Well, we also just run Minecraft building sessions there and sometimes we tie in with exhibitions that are going on in the museum. So the kids will, depending on whatever the theme is, if it's something to do with the pyramids or whatever, they can be building those types of things within the game for sure, yeah. I mean, you can create any kind of structure within the game given time. But the great thing about being able to use coding with the game is being able to work out the maths to make things happen much more quickly than you could do manually. Up the back.
Anyone else? Yep.
Is there anything available for doing anything like this for Minecraft PE on iPad? Because there used to be Pocket Mine, but Pocket Mine's now out of date, so the clients don't work anymore.
Unfortunately, not that I'm aware of, yeah. So the libraries of code that were initially created for the Raspberry Pi edition, and they have, that people have made it for the PC edition, but I don't know that anyone's even talked about making it for Pocket Edition.
a related question, I guess. Obviously, a lot of your students are going to come in and they're going to be enthusiastic Minecraft players already.
Yep.
Do you find that the fully fledged PC version is an easier sell for them than the Raspberry Pi version? Do they feel disappointed when they sit down at the Pi version and they don't have ocelots?
Yes, I certainly have found that when I've used the Raspberry Pi Edition at first, but when the focus is on the building, it doesn't really matter. And yeah, in fact, in the Raspberry Pi Edition, there's less building blocks as well. What I was just showing you in the game was actually on Minecraft 1.8, so it's not 1.10, which is the very latest version, but it's close enough. So that, you know, there's a lot of variety in what you can do with the PC edition, whereas in Pocket Edition and in the Raspberry Pi Edition, yeah, there's less blocks you can make. But still, like, the amount of stuff that you can do with the code, and which is really our focus, right, is sufficient to get kids engaged. That's even with the Raspberry Pi
the hook
Edition.
Is real if you can get them there.
Yeah. So like I said, like pretty much all of the kids, because they know the game already and they love the game, when you first introduce doing this to them, they'll start playing the game like normal. But if you can show them what you can accomplish with code, for me, that's the hook. That's where I get the aha moment. And it's like, oh, what else can I do? I want to know now how to make this happen and how to work it. And they have to try and do some problem solving and work out the maths and, you know, think about how they're going to make something happen multiple times.
Yeah, thanks for that. It really inspired me to do some work like this with my work experience students.
Yes.
I'd like to be able to do it in a web browser. And I sort of had a similar question about Pocket Edition because a lot of the students will arrive with iPads. I wonder whether a web browser-based VNC session or something might be an option if the Pocket Edition doesn't support it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Again, that would be up to someone, I guess, from the Python community to try and write some libraries that would work for that. At the moment, the libraries that have been written only work with the Raspberry Pi Edition or just the normal PC or Mac version.
Any further questions? No.
Yep.
I'm going to break many rules here because people say you're only allowed to ask questions. For response to the person up there, David Beasley has currently started writing a Minecraft server using async I/O. So hopefully he goes a long way with that because that could be very interesting for us.
Well, that will be interesting.
One more, not a question. There's there's a Bucket plugin which might be useful. It's called ComputerCraft. So it's Lua rather than Python, but it adds computer terminals and little turtles to Minecraft.
Okay,
like
so
go forward,
this
start
is,
mining,
yep,
that kind of stuff.
I have talked about this elsewhere. So that's actually now part of Minecraft Edu as well, the ComputerCraft mod. So that's a mod that you can use in the game. And yes, you're using Lua programming language to program some little turtles to go around and, you know, make things happen in the game. That's also a fantastic, you know, introduction to learning some coding.
And I'll also mention again, we have the PyCon AU Slack channels if folks want to provide additional resources and discuss talks after they're completed. So thank you once again, Digital K.